Developments coming in from Ukraine, where Russian state media reports safety systems at the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant in the south of Ukraine have been activated. The RIA agency says the systems were activated after power cuts were reported across swathes of Russian-controlled territory. Russia's defense military continues to blame Ukraine for shelling the plant, which Ukraine denies. It's Europe's largest power facility. The development comes after there were reports suggesting a detailed plan is being drawn up by Russia to disconnect the nuclear plant from Ukraine's grid. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, meanwhile, is in Paris. He's meeting French President Emmanuel Macron. The two have discussed the latest situation at the plant, and they say the IAEA is very, very close to being able to visit it in the near future. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Maximilian Hess, a fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, who is live from London. Thank you firstly for joining us. This is obviously an alarming development that could risk a catastrophic failure of the plant's cooling systems. Is this potentially being used as a political bargaining chip by Russia, and how will it change the trajectory of the conflict?
Well, personally, thank you for having me. We've had this situation here at the nuclear power plant for quite some time. Russia occupied the territory around the city named Enerhodar on the southern side of the Dnieper River back in March. And since the last month, however, there's been heavy shelling going on around, as well as shelling of Ukrainian positions north of the river in the city of Nikopol, despite that not being immediately close to the front. It's unclear why Russia is seeking to weaponize this, whether it's hoping to use it to advance it on the international agenda, but I think it's pretty clear that Russia isn't going to be able to gain anything useful from that. We've had a big divide over how to agree an International Atomic Energy Agency mission, as you were just discussing. The Ukrainians have their own concerns. The Russians will use it to try to legitimize their control and ultimately to try to take control of this nuclear power plant and, as you said, disconnect it from the Ukrainian grid. We've just had a statement recently from Enerhoatom, the Ukrainian state nuclear power company, that it has been disconnected, potentially as a result of damages. That may be a part of the story behind those emergency systems you've had going on earlier. But, this is a huge security concern as well. Of course, Ukraine is home to Chernobyl, the site of the greatest nuclear disaster since World War II. But even if it's not the shelling that causes the immediate damage to this plant, the ability to provide it with the right kind of nuclear fuel to handle and manage that fuel with the conflict going around pose huge risks.
And you spoke about some of those huge risks. Obviously, the memory of Chernobyl is still very much vivid in the minds of many Ukrainians, and there is shelling in that region. The dangers of a direct attack are pretty apparent. Is there a risk that we could see something devastating come from this?
I think the risk can't entirely be ruled out. We've had some statements from nuclear watchdogs and experts noting that shelling itself, this plant, the inner core is built to withstand even scenarios that were modeled after the 9/11 attacks of a plane flying in there. But then, the situation is really, how does the fuel get handled? How is the reactor core powered? Keeping that operating and able to be cooled down in the proper manner in any kind of scenario like that. Even if it wasn't, an immediate missile strike leading to an explosion, it could very much be simply the deterioration of the security environment there makes it unsafe to continue to operate the plant without the risk of some kind of serious incident.
Maximilian Hess, fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Thank you so much for joining us.